Are we the end times church, and are we living in the final days? What we read in Revelation, are we seeing the glimpses and the shadows and the setting of the stage for these events to actually start happening? April 2022, Paul Keith Davis and Terry Bennett were both shown a throne room scene in heaven, not together. They interact with each other.
Revelation 4 and 5, the taking of the scroll,
that Jesus actually had the scroll in hand. And that was the big proclamation. Whoa, like, it's time, guys. Things are heating up. Things are happening. And then on October 5th, 2022, is when Terry witnessed the first seal being broken. And the rider with the white horse symbolizing conquest, deception, and kind of like the Antichrist having permission, if you will, to run his course. It's time. It's the beginning of the end.
The one who's conquering on the earth in a heavenly realm is Revelation 19. Jesus riding on a white horse, conquering finally, doing the Armageddon battle. It's got all the saints with him. So this breaking of the seal is obviously not him riding out on a white horse. So who is the person who is held opposite to the Christ riding on a white horse is the Antichrist, likewise riding on a white horse, riding out to conquer. And his story is recorded in Daniel 11. And the idea of how does the Antichrist's mission work, and there's a lot of eschatology arguments about these things, but the simplest one is from Revelation 13, he only gets 3.5 years, 42 months. So the breaking of the first seal is not the Antichrist doing his work. It's the Antichrist being released to build up his conquering, right? Conquering is progressive. And then when you get to a certain point, you have conquered. And once you have conquered, he now has 3.5 years to run his kingdom and do the things predicted in Daniel and other places. And so the breaking of the first seal, you're going to look around on that sweet morning and it's going to smell the same as the day before. And as with all these seals, as Dan's going to make the point, we made the point last week, is the release of a single vessel into the earth to do work is going to be limited in scope. No being is God other than God.
And progressive.
Yeah, progressive and accumulating. So it takes time for each horse to perform their work, to develop their work, and to build it into the culminations. And they don't stop for the entire period of time. Someone could say, well, October 5th, 2022, you could use 7 years exactly, and you could come to the conclusion that the day and the hour of the Lord. Well, remember that the delay that happened when these Israelites, they were predicted it was going to be exactly 70 years
to the day
in Babylon, right? Yeah. Well, guess what? They were in Babylon longer than 70 years because it took time to begin this, time to end that. And so no one's going to be able to make a huge prediction. Secondly, even if you could make the case that, well, October 5th, 2022 adds 7 years. Well, on October 4th, could you have made the prediction? No, you couldn't. No one knew, right? So there is this dynamic where you can still uphold the truth of that scripture. But the final point is, if we're going to understand that God releases things for the value of the saints to be able to be prepared and to know what's going on, then we should understand that the actions of the book of Revelation shouldn't be happening without the knowledge of the saints. You should know where you are in God's paradigm. You should know when you are in God's paradigm. God is treating you like a friend. Remember John 15? So the idea then is that God is looking to share with the saints things that will help them be made ready. So what you want to be looking for, is you want to look for an individual who's forming a confederation of 10 nations, who is looking to be under the god of fortresses, who's Jupiter in the Roman pantheon, and who is megalomaniac in scope, wanting to change the world, serve the world, and just look for that person to be confirmed by the false prophet.
So this person's going to be making political allegiances, political ties, and, just positioning himself and doing the things that would be required to be elevated and exalted to that place where he'll have freedom to reign. So that's first horse released to run its course and to start doing things back in October 2022. Then,
well, and then 6 months later was Easter. So Yom Kippur was October 5th, 2022, and then Easter was April 8th, 2023. And it was the red horse, and that was the release of the red horse. He was visiting someone's house and came out in the living room, and there was the Lord standing with the red horse, and you could smell and see in the hallway the other two horses not far behind, the black and the pale horse of famine and death. But the war horse was released.
Yeah, and so this represents war and strife, which could then turn into like civil unrest, global conflicts, internal divisions. So wars and rumors of wars. War's always kind of been a thing, but on a global scale also, in the weird thing that we have now with technology to have connection to all parts of the world and information about all parts of the world, we're kind of always aware of these types of things. That seems to be on the brink here.
So it took till October of 2024 until the breaking of the third and fourth seal, the black and the pale horses, and it was quick succession over the same weekend. So the idea of famine specifically is centered around grains in that passage. It's don't touch the oil and wine, but it's the grains that get touched. You could just throw out there the admonition, maybe stock up on some things if only to fight high prices. And then death is just the widespread dynamics of various kinds of things that kill people. And a fourth of the earth is subject to these works, these four, because that's the passage of Revelation 6 is, and they are given authority over a fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, with famine, with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth. You've got the Zephaniah passage and other passages in Isaiah that put the scope globally in terms of God's right to judge and his right to call to account for their stance with him. The readiness is the response of the heart. The readiness is the response of the heart. And the reality is that what God really wants to do is found clearly in the scriptures, especially Ephesians. He wants to fill his people to the fullness of God. That's what he really, really wants. That's what he really, really, really wants, is to have a body, a church that is so of his glory and of his nature and of his, I'll say, supernaturality, that they're able to function in a way that shows stark contrast to that which is going on in the world around them. And that has always been the case, is that when God had people who were truly able to come into him and into his life and into his nature, they always stood out in the context of the things that were demonstrating opposite. He always had light where there was dark. He always had life where there was death. He always had testimony where there was lie. And so the best preparation a person can enter into and make is saying, Lord, what does it mean for me to be your vessel? Train me in it. Correct me in it. I don't want to be someone who refuses correction. Walk me through preparation. What does it mean to be the bride who has prepared herself, from Revelation 19:6 and 7? And so we want to be able to do that before the Lord and enter into that kind of a relationship, because that is valuable any age, any season of the age, and for eternity.